Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever wished you could just know what someone else is thinking? Like, really know? To see right past their words and get to their true feelings, their hidden intentions? Well, if you have, you're definitely not alone. There's this huge, multi-million-dollar industry built on that exact promise, the ability to read people. And today we're going to dig in and find out if it's a real, learnable skill or just a very expensive fantasy.
I mean, just listen to this pitch. It's so seductive, right? This quote is pulled straight from the marketing for a book called Spy the Lie. And what it's selling is basically a superpower. A power that could help you absolutely crush job interviews, know what's up on dates, win any negotiation. The idea is that with just the right training, you can unlock the secret world of nonverbal cues and pretty much become a human lie detector.
But here's the big question. Is any of that actually real? Are we learning a genuine science of human behavior here, or are we just being sold a modern-day version of fortune-telling, all dressed up in scientific-sounding language? That's really the core question we're tackling in this explainer. And, the answer, it might really surprise you. So here's our game plan. First up, we're going to dive into that exciting promise of mind reading. Then we'll start to look at where the science shows some serious cracks in the code. After that, we'll break down the playbook these so-called experts use to sell these ideas, look at some of the real-world dangers, and then finally we'll get to what we actually know about understanding each other.
All right, let's start with the promise itself. Because let's be honest, it's an incredibly appealing idea, and it's promoted everywhere, in a whole library of best-selling books and by a legion of online experts.
And these promises aren't vague either. They're super concrete. You've got books like Captivate, claiming you can literally speed-read faces to predict emotions. Then there's former FBI agent Joe Navarro, who teaches you how to spot behaviors that signal confidence or avoidance. And the ultimate goal? Well, it's almost always tied directly to success. One book even promises these skills will boost your influence, impact, and income. It's all about getting ahead.
Now, a lot of this popular confidence really got supercharged by Malcolm Gladwell's massive 2005 bestseller, Blink. I'm sure you've heard of it. He's the one who introduced the idea of thin slicing to, well, pretty much everyone. The concept is that our unconscious mind can make these incredibly accurate judgments in, you guessed it, the blink of an eye. This kind of gave everyone an intellectual permission slip to just trust our gut feelings about people.
And if this whole field has a scientific figurehead, it's got to be psychologist Paul Ekman. His foundational research made this huge claim that there are universal facial expressions. He called them microexpressions. These are tiny, fleeting expressions that last less than half a second and supposedly reveal a person's true, hidden emotions. And boom, just like that, this became the scientific-sounding backbone for an entire industry of deception detection.
So, okay, you've got a scientific figurehead, you've got this powerful promise. It all sounds pretty solid, right? Well, this is where our story takes a really sharp turn. Because when you stop listening to all the hype and start looking at the actual hard data, the entire foundation just starts to crumble.
Just look at the headline claim. Paul Ekman himself said that his system, when taught to other people, could get them to an 80 to 90% accuracy rate in spotting lies. I mean, think about that. That's an incredible number. It would, in fact, be a superpower.
But here's the real number. This comes from a huge meta-analysis that looked at hundreds of scientific studies on this very topic. And what they found was that the average accuracy rate for detecting lies from nonverbal cues alone is just 54%.
And really, that number is the whole story. 54%. That is barely better than just flipping a coin. So the crucial takeaway here, the big one, is that after all the training, all the books, all the courses, the average person's ability to spot a lie is statistically almost indistinguishable from pure random chance. I love this sharp critique from YouTuber Moonikit because it really captures the modern skepticism perfectly. The appeal of this stuff is that it feels scientific. It uses all the right jargon, it cites studies, it seems evidence-based. But when you actually dig into the data, the predictive power just isn't there. It's a lot like astrology, just for a different audience. And look, this skepticism isn't just some recent YouTube thing. From the very beginning, many people in the scientific community were raising red flags. Even way back when Blink was first published, a review in the Daily Telegraph made this exact point, calling out the huge gap between the grand promises and the actual, scientific support. So if the science is this weak, how on earth did this become such a popular and profitable industry, especially online? Well, it turns out there's a pretty repeatable formula, a kind of playbook, if you will. Okay, let's break this playbook down. Step 1.
You pick a target, usually a controversial public figure that people already have strong feelings about. Step 2, you find a tiny, completely out-of-context clip, maybe even just a single photo. Step 3, you claim you can establish their baseline emotional state from these few seconds of footage. Then, and this is the key part, you interpret every single twitch and glance as proof of a narrative that your audience probably already believes. And the final step? You pitch your book or your course, often framing it as this essential tool for self-protection, a way to keep you safe from the dangerous people in your own life. It's really less about science and a whole lot more about monetizing gossip.
Now, all of this might just sound like harmless online entertainment, right? Just a bit of fun. But these same flawed ideas are being used in some of the highest stakes environments you can possibly imagine. And there, the consequences can be absolutely devastating.
We're talking about something called the Reid technique. It's a very widely used interrogation method taught to law enforcement all across the United States. And a core part of this training is to analyze a suspect's body language, things like looking away or crossing their arms, to decide if they're being deceptive. And this judgment call often happens before the real interrogation even begins.
So what happens when this technique goes wrong? Well, according to the Innocence Project, the folks who work to exonerate wrongfully convicted people, the results are just heartbreaking. Of all the people who were convicted of murder and later cleared by DNA evidence, a staggering 62% of them had falsely confessed to the crime. And many of them confessed after these super intense interrogations using these exact methods.
And this is where you find this terrifying paradox. Research has actually shown that when investigators get trained in these techniques, their confidence in their ability to detect lies shoots way up, but their accuracy, it doesn't budge. So you have officers who believe they're seeing deception cues. They become totally convinced of a suspect's guilt, and then they apply this immense psychological pressure, which can lead innocent people to confess to crimes they had nothing to do with.
So, okay, after all that debunking, where does that leave us? It's really tempting to just throw up your hands and say, okay, body language is all meaningless. But that's not the answer either. The real key here is to separate the myth of lie detection from the very real science of how we communicate without words.
And that's the absolute key distinction we have to make. No one, and I mean no one, is saying that things like posture, tone of voice, or facial expressions don't matter. They absolutely do. The science of nonverbal communication is a totally legitimate field of study. The big mistake is believing that these signals are some kind of simple, readable code for detecting lies or, reading minds. So what does the real science actually support? Well, we know for sure that our brains make snap judgments in less than a second. We know that posture and personal space send powerful signals about status and relationships. We know that eye contact is absolutely vital for building trust. All of these cues are real, and they definitely matter. But did you notice the pattern here? They're all indicators of things like emotion, status, and engagement, not foolproof signs that someone is lying to you. So in the end, maybe the real superpower isn't decoding secret gestures or spotting those elusive microexpressions. Maybe this whole desire to read people is really just a shortcut that makes us miss what's right there in front of us. After digging into the pseudoscience of mind reading, it seems like maybe the most effective way to understand what someone is truly thinking or feeling isn't to watch for a twitch in their eye, but to just pay closer attention to the words they're actually saying. So what if, instead of trying to be detectives, we just tried to be better listeners?